Welcome to another episode of Six Figure Secrets for Fractional Experts. My name is Bradley Jacobs. I'm your host, the founder and CEO of Mylance. Today, I'm joined again by Ellie Holbert. Ellie, I'm so excited to have you on. Ellie is the founder and CEO of MPAC Advisory Services. She supports HR leaders to assess the health and effectiveness of their teams and create high-performing work cultures. Ellie, welcome back to the pod.
Thank you so much, Bradley. It's so great to be on with you again.
Yeah, you're actually one of our first, I think your second guest to be on twice. So I'm so excited to have you back. And for those, listening now, she sent me a bunch of updates since the last time we talked, and I can't wait to dive in. So thank you for doing that, Ellie.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
So give us just a quick, most people listen to your episode 1. It was a very highly listened to episode, but maybe you can just give us a quick recap of this short summary of the journey from corporate to launching your full-time thing and the success you've been having in a very short period of time.
Sure. Thank you. Well, if I were to give the short version of that story, when I became a mom, I really wanted to have more time with my daughter than my corporate role would have allowed. And I also felt like motherhood showed me what I was capable of in a way that I didn't understand before. So I left my corporate job, which I really liked, and went out on my own, landed a really solid, lucrative contract to do that. About 1 week later, that contract was unexpectedly canceled, and I had $0 in the pipeline, which was not exactly the start that you want when you launch a business. But I hit the pavement, and 3 weeks later, a great opportunity came through. 16 weeks later, which was about when we did our initial recording together, I had more than replaced my corporate salary, and my pipeline was worth about $1.5 million. And now we're coming up on, I believe I've been in business for 10 months now, and it's been great. I've more than exceeded my corporate salary across that first year. I'm projecting to take in 30 to 50% more than my corporate income, which is fantastic. I now take every Friday off to be with my daughter and go to gymnastics in the bakery. And for my current client work, I actually have 6 active clients, 5 of which were inbound. And I would say 100% of my client work is completely aligned to the work that I love more than anything. And I actually feel like I'm making a difference now with what I'm doing and connecting with so many incredible independent consultants along the way.
10 months is, in the grand scheme of things, nothing, right? For you to create this business that you have now and replace your corporate salary and then some and have all these inbound clients and this massive pipeline, it's truly incredible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I hope it shows others this is a very real outcome that is possible. I'm not some unicorn. I'm just a typical consultant that left and tried something new. And it's by no means been an easy year to start a business. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but I hope this can be a proof point that this really is possible if you take the leap and if you take that consistent, imperfect action that we talked a lot about in our first conversation.
Yeah, well, throughout this conversation, everyone will see that you're not normal in any way, but I appreciate you making it commonplace that anyone can do this. It's not easy, but it is doable. And my favorite thing in your share is this is what I love so much about consulting and being on your own is when you talk about spending time with your daughter and spending time with your family and being a mom. And it's just whether that thing is family or whether it's hobbies or whether it's travel, it doesn't really matter to me. The point is you get to really spend time, yes, doing fulfilling work, making a difference, as you said. And then when you're not working, you can be spending time with the people you love the most or doing the things you love the most. And it's such a beautiful thing that this way of working affords.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I was even, I would say looking back at this past year, I wish I would have been a bit more intentional about really carving out the time to fully enjoy life a bit more. But I did an exercise over the weekend with my husband where we looked at the calendar for 2026. We printed out every single month. We looked at it. We made sure we had the right amount of time in there to enjoy our family together. We picked one day every month to go on a date all day in our hometown together. And then I picked a day every single month where I could pour into my cup and take care of myself so I can be a better mom and business owner. So being out on your own, in my corporate job, I definitely would not have had that much time off to do that. But now I do feel like I have the flexibility. I've been grinding a little too hard, but now it's time to really be intentional about enjoying life more as a business owner and really taking advantage of the flexibility that we're afforded to do that.
It's beautiful because we go out on our own to get the flexibility and the freedom and to be able to do the things we want to do. And sometimes we don't actually create that, right? Our businesses are all consuming, or we allow them to be, right? Like it's a choice. And then all of a sudden we chose this flexible path and it's not flexible.
Right, exactly. What was the trigger point for that for me? I took, so in my work with HR leaders, my work touches on engagement surveys a lot, employee engagement surveys. I took my own engagement survey at the end of the summer and I failed. My scores were terrible. And if that were a client, I would have said that you have a critically low employee engagement score. You really need to pay attention to this matter. So I thought about it and I thought, okay, as an employer of myself, how am I treating myself? What would I advise a client? How would I tell them that they need to treat their people? And so I started to make some real changes. And what's so funny is that my business grew as I took better care of myself. I think we often think that there's a trade-off of time spent pouring into ourselves, caring for ourselves and those around us, that will somehow take away from the business. But actually, the more balanced and the more I managed my own health, my mental health, the better performing my business was, especially financially. So there really is no trade-off.
Yeah. Beautiful win-win. More time with your family. You feel better, right? Your relationships are nourished and your business performs at a higher level.
Exactly. Yes. And I hope that's encouraging for the business owners that have something in their life that demands a lot from them. I talk to moms a lot about being out on our own as business owners. I really want moms to know you can do this. You can do it in the early years. I was still even nursing my daughter when I launched my business. So even in the thick of it, you can do this. But whether you're a caregiver, you have family or community responsibilities that take a lot of you, whatever it is, you can still do this even if you have loved ones that require a lot from you.
One thing, it's always going to be a question, right? Of these opportunities that are inbound. You said, most of them are coming inbound these days, and you have this millions of dollars worth of pipeline now, right? I know that doesn't happen by accident and it doesn't just all fall in your lap. So give us I know you shared a bunch last time. I'd love to hear how it's evolved and just summarize what you do for business development to drive these inbound opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. So for business development, my priority still remains to get one-on-one phone calls on the calendar, ideally with my ICP. That's still the priority. I'm still following that 3-pillar approach of direct contact with my network that I already know, whether that be old college friends, old colleagues, former clients. I also do LinkedIn thought leadership still. I try to be very consistent. I really think the more consistent, the better, which the algorithm has absolutely punished me for missing 1 week. I've only missed a week twice, and my engagement absolutely tanked after that. So please do not miss even a single week. But I do LinkedIn thought leadership. And then I also do speaking engagements a lot more now. So I do webinars with my ideal client. I've gone on some podcasts. That's been a very beneficial way to get my name out there, my story, but really build trust with the audience. I think there's such intimacy and familiarity that can come from hearing someone's voice as you get ready for your day, as you're commuting in the car. So I've found speaking to be really beneficial for growing trust with my audience and with my ideal clients. The LinkedIn thought leadership has been very interesting because I've been on calls with clients and potential clients where they said, well, I heard about you. And then I went to your LinkedIn and I saw a couple of videos you posted. And so, did me posting that video lead a client to say, oh, look at this video I stumbled on. I'm going to reach out to her and hire her. I don't know that it was that necessarily, but my goodness, it's been a great credibility builder and a great way to build connection without it requiring my time, when a potential client that hears of me in another capacity can go to my LinkedIn profile and feel that they're getting to know me. So all of that to say, I'm still following those fundamentals, but I've learned through testing that I really need to lean into speaking opportunities, specifically podcasts, webinars, and posting video clips to LinkedIn as a way to quickly build meaningful connections and trust with a larger audience than I can in a one-on-one call. Those are very beneficial, but they take a lot of calendar time. I highly recommend speaking and then that leading to a one-on-one call.
And the LinkedIn, let's say content, whether it's written or video, if you really think about it at a basic level, it's really simple, right? It's like if there's two Ellies in the world and Ellie number one has a LinkedIn profile with very little or no content or one post every 3 months versus the Ellie number two that has content weekly. Sure, you can miss a week or two, not the end of the world, right? But you've been showing up for the better part of a year on LinkedIn. One has a full portfolio of what you know and what kind of work you've done and what you've learned and all that kind of stuff. And one is bare.
Mm-hmm.
It ends up being a really simple equation of, yeah, I want to work with Ellie that has the content, the portfolio built out because I can see her stuff. I can see her portfolio. It's almost like a restaurant with like thousands of reviews on Yelp and a restaurant that has nothing. I'm going to go to the one that has all these reviews. I get to know the restaurant a little bit, right? There's a better likelihood that I'm going to have a good experience there.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, it also carries through to the delivery of my client work as well. So I work with HR leaders. Often that involves assessing a team through one-on-one interviews where I ask them some personal questions about trust and collaboration and communication and leadership within their company. So I ask them some sensitive questions and I have to build up trust very quickly in those interviews to get the real data that I need to support an organization in improving. And I've had clients that I interview go to my LinkedIn first, see my videos, and then they say, well, I feel really comfortable telling you this because I heard you say X, Y, and Z. So my clients are getting a better service because I'm getting better data because of this trust.
Yeah, wow, it's so good. And the process that I know you follow that we talked a lot more about on podcast number one, so we won't go back into the whole thing. It's relatively simple, right? You're connecting with your network, you're adding new connections, you're publishing content, the content's helping you get speaking engagements, right? You're putting yourself out there and then you follow up. I know you do. It's a huge part of it. And you get sales calls and that's pipeline, right? It's not rocket science. It's consistency over time and putting yourself out there.
Totally. Absolutely. I just glanced at my calendar just to see the evidence. And I have 3 sales calls this week with my ICP. Never met either of these or any of these individuals. And yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday, by the end of the day, I'll have 3 calls with, qualified buyers from all of this that we've talked about.
And let's be clear, right? It's not like your plate is empty from a client perspective. You're full, right?
Fully booked. Yes.
Fully booked. So tell us, you're fully booked and you have 3 sales calls this week. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't be having sales calls when I'm fully booked because I literally don't have space for them. And you're doing the opposite, which is certainly the best practice. Like you never stop doing business development. So how are you going to conduct these calls knowing your plate is full right now?
Yes. So I think one thing that is really important is we are responsible for defining that plate being full, how big that plate is before you fill it up. My plate, it's not 40 hours. That's not possible for me to deliver 40 hours of client work and business development and be with my daughter for a full work. That's not my plate. I have probably been expecting about 32 hours of client work. And I would say that's actually way too much. For 2026, I'm planning for 18 hours of client work every week because I've realized, the sales calls, there's prep, there's post. I have definitely made the mistake of cramming the top of the funnel and not maturing the leads through the funnel. That's a huge lesson for me this year. So when I did an exercise, of course, with the help of ChatGPT, to look at, okay, realistically, what is the capacity that I have to sell? I learned it's 18 hours. So all of that to say, we are responsible for defining what that plate is that we have to fill. And in my experience, I try to keep about 20% of my capacity free to put out fires. That could be my personal life. It could be clients wanting more than what I projected for the week. It could be more sales calls or an opportunity that comes out of the blue needing to do research, but I try to leave 20% of white space in my life to deal with whatever comes up. And then when I'm fully booked with client work, I still expect myself to book 4 to 6 calls every single week. It might not necessarily be an ICP, but it's contact with the market, if you will. So I expect myself to have 4 to 6 contacts with the market, whether that be one on one sales call, a webinar, catching up with a friend from college, to put my name out there. In my experience, I think I shared before, 25 to 50% of those will get canceled. So I end up with 2 to 3. And I find that to be manageable. But I mean, I have to say, even if we're fully booked, it's just not, that is not a valid excuse not to do business development. Business development is equally as important as client delivery, because without business development, you will not have client delivery. And it is so difficult to start that engine up from scratch if you let your leads go cold. And I've learned that because I've done that. So now, lesson learned, I will always have 4 to 6 sales calls booked, regardless of how busy I am. I will try to only sell 18 hours a week of client work so that I'm leaving 20% of my time for the fires that need to be put out.
Yeah. There's so many golden nuggets in there. I hope everyone really is listening because it's so good. And I couldn't say it better myself. So thank you for sharing all that. And I really want to acknowledge you, Ellie, because it can be so easy to get sucked into the business where you're focused on client work because it's also what you love doing. Right? That's why you started this business. You're like, I want to serve HR leaders. I want to help businesses improve their cultures and productivity and all those kinds of things. And you do such a good job of stepping out of the business and looking at what's working and what's not working from a big picture perspective, right? Am I billing too many hours? How is business development going? What's working? What's not working? Taking your own culture survey. I mean, I love that, right? Like there's so many people that don't practice what they preach, frankly. I mean, even the best marketing leaders in the world, they come to me for marketing support because it's so challenging to do your own marketing or figure out how you're going to position yourself. And we all need help. And that's not a bad thing at all. But you're able to take what you do for other companies and look at yourself as a business and take your own culture survey. I mean, it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think part of what's really helpful is to understand where your motivations are coming from, especially for entrepreneurs, this desire to hustle and overwork. I remember the first 6 months of my business, I didn't take a full weekend off. That was a huge mistake. It did not actually lead to closed business, but I was operating under this illusion that every minute of my day had to go towards either caring for my daughter or the growth of my business. And that if that wasn't the case, then I was putting my family at risk during a challenging time in our economy. So I did a lot of reflection and introspection about where was that fear coming from or that desire to overwork coming from. And I'm so lucky to come from a family with 2 parents that have made incredible strides in their lives economically. Both my parents grew up under really challenging economic circumstances and did something incredible with their lives. My mom became a PhD in psychology in I think the 70s. That's not very common for women back then. My dad grew up incredibly impoverished, did not have heat in his home in Michigan, and became an orthodontist. And from my parents, I felt like I learned so much from them about sacrifice and work ethic and being persistent, working hard to provide for your family. And I realized that a lot of my overworking tendencies were coming from this feeling of guilt or just pressure of, look what my family did in one generation, but that means we're just one generation from that. And so, not to go too deep, but I realized where that desire was coming from, and that it was not serving myself. It was not serving my family. It wasn't serving my business. It was really this inner fear, but also this intense gratitude and appreciation for what my family did. And I had a conversation with my dad about this. And he said, I made those sacrifices for a reason. I left the farm for a reason. It was so that you didn't have to do all of that too. And so I've learned that caring for myself, not working myself into the ground, this is actually a way for me to express my appreciation and my gratitude for my parents, because they gave so much so that I could do this. And if I don't do this, then what did they do that for?
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me.
Yeah, of course. One of the things you shared before this was you said this the very source of your greatest struggles may also be your greatest gift to the world. And I'd love for you, maybe it's a nice segue from what you just shared of what do you mean by that and how has that played out for you in your business?
In my work with HR leaders, a lot of my work focuses on organizational health, performance, and profitability. But really, the heart of my business is creating organizational cultures that are safe and where people feel like they belong. And I came into this work really because if I were to look back growing up, I did not feel that I belonged. I'm neurodivergent, and I did not know this until I was 31. So, most of my life, I felt like I was trying to operate with an incomplete playbook that others somehow had access to and I didn't. So I knew that something was different about me. I knew something was not off necessarily, but I was struggling a lot socially. I was struggling in many ways. And I would characterize my early experiences as non belonging, constant struggle, confusion, questioning myself, feeling frustrated that there was something wrong with me because certain things, especially social interactions, it just didn't come naturally to me the way it did for others. But I had such a need to belong, like it was oxygen. So I realized, this isn't coming naturally to me the way it does for others, but I can learn things. I can learn, if I can learn physics, I can learn how to have a casual conversation with a peer. So I approached this from almost an anthropological perspective, learning how to build trusting relationships, how to connect with people, how to talk to strangers, all kinds of social interactions. I studied it intellectually, and my academic background is in psychology and sociology. So I always really wanted to learn about human systems and how people operate. And eventually, with a lot of education and self coaching and training from different opportunities, I was a counselor during my graduate program, received a lot of training on active listening and social communication. So, all of this to say, these were skills that eventually I was able to develop in other ways. And in my corporate jobs, I actually ended up being really good at these things. I was often given the trickiest clients, the prickly pears, if you will, that needed, someone with a little bit extra attention to their emotional needs. And I was often put on teams that were not necessarily performing at their best and needed to turn around quickly. And I was able to create really strong trust based relationships. And what was really challenging for me growing up, it ended up being something that became a real asset because I was able to step into an organization or a situation and see it with a fresh perspective. And things that I think some people may have taken for granted, I was able to say, well, have we defined what people should be doing? Does everyone know what everyone is here to do? Do we know that? So I would ask some of these really basic questions. Lo and behold, a lot of the basics were not covered. So from that, I was able to create a playbook for creating high performing teams, for creating effective leadership and applying that to a remote setting. And now my clients, they're able to move from dysfunctional, chaotic environments to high performing teams and leaders that have been really struggling with gaining a sense of followership or respect and influence virtually. They're able to build those things with this playbook. So looking back, yes, I would say that my unique wiring, I don't want to paint too rosy of a picture here. It was really challenging. It's still a part of my life. I still struggle with this. It's still a source of pain. Yes. But it is also true that this is why I can do what I do and why I'm so passionate about it, because I know that pain of non belonging. I know the playbook for how to create that for teams. And I'm able to ask the silly, basic questions that a team needs to get there. So I feel intensely grateful to have this unique wiring and to have a why behind my work that will cause me to, work on a Saturday morning when I need to and feel no resentment, or will cause me to really go the extra mile with my clients because this is my core why. I want to live in a world where people belong, where they feel like they fit in. And that matters not only in our personal lives, but at work too.
some people when they have these challenges, right? You didn't ask for this challenge, but you were given this challenge and you kind of have two options, right? You're like, oh, this sucks. And what am I going to do with this? And I don't know. And you kind of use it as your excuse. Or you say, all right, this is my challenge and I get to work through it. I get to learn what I need to learn and overcome it and grow in these skills in the way that most people haven't had to. So they just don't, right? It almost to some degree in life, if you don't have to, you don't. Mm-hmm. Right. And so you basically had to, and you developed this unique skill that played out in your corporate life and certainly has allowed you to serve clients in a beautiful way on your own. And I'll reflect back to you, Ellie, you're not just doing it for your clients or with your clients, you're doing it with yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? You have this internal, or I'll just reflect back to you, the internal compassion and skill set to lovingly support yourself when things aren't working or you're overworked or whatever it is. It's just so cool to see you apply your skill set to not just your clients and have a very successful financially and all those kinds of things business, but to improve your own quality of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. And I think it's, I'm very tapped into my nervous system because of this wiring. And so that does a lot of the heavy lifting for me. It will tell me that I'm overstimulated. I need to take care of myself. So there's so many wonderful parts of this unique wiring that I'm really grateful for. And, it's so fascinating. When I finally did learn that I was neurodivergent, I had language to explain how I always felt. I felt the most profound exhale of my life. I felt like a weight fell off my shoulders of, that's why. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm different. I'm not defective. And so, it's led me to really have, I think, a sense of resilience with not being good at things when I first try them or things not coming naturally to me the first time, because I now understand this about myself. I completely accept this about myself. I know there's nothing wrong. So when I try things for the first time and I struggle, I don't see anything wrong with that because I've been struggling at everything I've tried the first time for most of my life, with very few exceptions. And I can struggle through things and learn how to do them. And I'm not saying, to go at bat and fail 5, 10 times. I'm saying 30, 40, 50. I can do that. I can stick with it and know if I'm struggling, if I'm not good at it, well, I have realistic expectations of myself that I probably won't be good at something for 30, 40, 50 times. But that discipline, that consistent, imperfect action, that is what leads to effectiveness. So, if someone's listening, maybe you're not necessarily neurodivergent or have different wiring, but I hope this shows you that if you're trying something new and you're not good at it, that does not mean that you won't eventually be good at it. You just might need those 30 to 40 iterations of struggling, but stick with it, get to that other side.
And most people are not good at things the first time. Like, we're all bad at the beginning. It would be bizarre if you were randomly amazing at like sales, right?
Right.
And you might have some natural gifts that make you, more prone to be successful. But yeah, you're going to have a lot of no's and rejections and objections and all these things that just can easily knock us down as entrepreneurs when we're not used to it. We haven't built the muscle of resilience or the muscle of, it's not even a rejection, right? It's a redirection. It's feedback. And if you can look at the feedback as information, as a rep, as it's like, okay, this is part of my process of becoming a successful business owner, then that can be in a really empowering interpretation to keep going. So I'm really happy you shared that. And I know that you talked a lot about your nervous system and being able to grow the business at a pace that your nervous system can tolerate. And if your nervous system can't tolerate more, then your business has no room to grow. And I'd love if you could just expand on that. Like, what does that really mean to you? And especially maybe for people that are less in tune with what does your nervous system really mean? And how does that play a role in business? I could see someone like totally rolling their eyes right now. So maybe you can like dumb it down for us in layman's terms. Like, what are you really talking about there and help someone out?
Yes, absolutely. And if someone is feeling resistance to this, that's a fantastic sign that you really should listen to this. And if you think that it's squishy and not necessarily effective. I'll share a little bit about my pipeline after this, and then I'll let
I love it. Practice,
I
like
promise,
the proof's in the pudding, right? Like, yeah, I love it.
I promise you this is very profitable. So a little bit about the nervous system. There are different parts of our brains that are responsible for different things. It's so important that they're all supported to do the job that they have to do. So we have an amygdala. It's known as the lizard part of the brain. This is responsible for fight or flight or freeze or fawn. Those are 4 responses, not just the 2. We also have our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your higher level thinking, strategy, also emotional regulation, and kind of your personality. When you are in a state of distress, your prefrontal cortex will go offline, and the wiring of the brain just goes right to the amygdala, the fight or flight. So you completely skip your strategy, your higher level thinking, and you operate from a place of fear and self protection. And we know as entrepreneurs that fear and self protection and risk taking, there's a complicated relationship there. We have to get to a place of bold but informed risk taking for our businesses to grow. So that tells us that we need to do everything we can to help our amygdala calm down, cool down, and support our prefrontal cortex coming online. And so, how we can do that is to send signals to our body, to our nervous system, that we are safe. There are so many things you can do to do this. It's very personal. Some people rely on prayer, meditation, mantras. Some rely on visualizations. I really rely on sensory input that calms down my body. So, essential oils, certain textures are really soothing, and I will just find my fuzzy blanket and basically wear it. If that's strategic business advice, there we go. You need to figure out what works for you, but I will do what I can to send my body signals that it's safe, everything's okay. We are not running from a lion. It's just an email from a client. And I try to cool down my body and help my amygdala calm down. I help my prefrontal cortex come online. And so that's kind of the neuroscience behind why it's so important to care for our nervous systems. And I would say for me personally, it's very interesting because although I feel really solid in emotional regulation, social emotional contexts now, I actually do not experience my emotions as how I hear other people describe emotions. I experience them as physical sensations in my body. I'll seem perfectly cheerful and sunny and like everything is okay, but have intense jaw pain. Maybe my neck hurts. Maybe I have a stomach ache. So I need to be very mindful of what my body is trying to tell me, because emotionally they just don't register for me the same as they might for other people. And so that's where I really try to listen to, what is my body telling me? To listen to it, I have to slow down and pause. And then I try to just offer comfort when my body is asking that from me.
And I know I really want to get to this before we run out of time, is the trust fall that you recently took in your business. Tell us what a trust fall is in your terminology and what that means for your business.
Yes. So, as you said, I recently took a trust fall. To give a little bit of background, I had one main client that took up most of my available time. I had other clients as well, but really one key project that took most of my brain capacity. And I was growing my pipeline and finding a lot of leads and a lot of opportunities, but I felt like I didn't have the capacity and the space in my mind to really nurture those relationships through. And looking ahead at the calendar, I also felt like, if I maintain this client, it will take overworking to then sell more strategic work so that I can step away from this client. And I realized that the formula required for me to move on from that situation, it just required a level of overwork and exerting myself that I didn't think was healthy. And once again, my employee engagement survey results told me I needed to stop doing that so that I didn't fire myself. And so what I did was I ended up leaving that client without revenue coming my way, with nothing signed, at least. I had plenty of opportunities and things I was keeping track of, but I did not know when the next check would come. And I decided to step away from that client, who I love very much. And I was amazed at how 3 weeks later, I had 5 inbound opportunities that led to closed opportunities and covered my business expenses, my personal expenses. And then another 3 weeks later, so 6 weeks later, I had closed even more work. I was making well over my corporate salary, fully booked for months with the exact type of work that I wanted to do. And I kid you not, that 6 weeks of progress, when we look at not only financially, but the heart and soul of why I do what I do, the value of the work, I made more gains in that 6 weeks, both for meaning and profit, than I did in the 6 months before that. So creating the capacity first and then selling the right opportunities, that is what I've taken away from that experience. And now, I think we're about 6 weeks or 8 weeks after that, maybe for December. Hope you don't mind my sharing. I will actually be earning 3 times my corporate salary in the month of December. Again, taking every Friday off to be with my daughter and doing client work that I love so much, I would probably do it for free. Don't tell them that, but I would. And that was from the trust fall. That was from the trust fall.
Wow. I mean, such a testament to the willingness to risk and trust that it will work out one way or another. Maybe it works out as quickly as it did for you. Maybe it's something else down the line. Maybe it's a lesson. I mean, you never know. But if something's not working for you in the way that you really want it to be, like some part of it gets to let go.
Yes.
And you did that. And I love how quickly it paid off for you. It's nice when it works out like that.
Right. Yes. Results may vary. Results may vary.
Right. It's like, let's set expectations, and the universe is going to give you, our conversations end up being a little bit more spiritual than some of my others. I'm totally aligned with that because I think you live a better life if you basically believe the universe is rigged in your favor, that you will set yourself up for success. You will create the room, the space for opportunities. You'll put in the hard work, you'll iterate, you'll learn, and then good things will come your way. If it's a challenging thing that comes your way, then you learn a lesson from it. And that sets you up for the next good thing to come your way, right? There's just always, you can always basically spin it in a positive light, no matter what happens.
Absolutely. And if you are working at a level where if you won the dream project, do you have the time to deliver on it? That's huge. So often when people are making that transition from whether it's hourly to project based or, implementation to strategy work. I talk to a lot of independent consultants now. Far too often I see people trying to sell work that if they want it, they could not start it next week. And that's key because then okay, I can't win that work. And then your habits, your beliefs, your actions, your subconscious, it's aligned to that reality of I can't do that work. So I'm convinced that whether it's your subconscious, the universe, I'm right there with you, whatever it is that is orchestrating this whole thing, what you believe is really possible for you, I think that's the upper limit. And can you boost that higher? Maybe, because until you believe that that is possible for you, the actions that are necessary to make that a reality, I don't think you will take them. But if you create the capacity first, you know that there's opportunity out there, you are taking consistent aligned action to reach those people. It is a matter of time. It will come through.
To a testament to what you've done, it comes through when you're in alignment with the work that lights you up and is really aligned with your purpose here. You shared this quote of, I made more progress in 6 weeks of surrender and alignment than in the 6 months prior.
Yes, it's true. And I think, to have the stomach to take that risk, it's all about your why. Why did I take that risk? I took that risk because I believe that there are people that I need to reach that are in organizations where they're not set up for success. They're not being treated well. They're not safe. And that they have dreams and visions and value to offer this world that they cannot offer because of those conditions. And I want to reach them. I want to change those conditions and help people come alive again exactly where they are. That's my why. And I will happily take a risk to make that happen. So I would really think about what's your why? What's your mission that compels you so strongly you'll take a risk like that. And I really believe that every single one of us, we have value and gifts and talents to offer this world that are uniquely ours. And if you can really get in touch with that, I think it can be so beautiful and so powerful for your business.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all this. This is just, yeah. And the last quote I want to share that you sent over was, "The universe cannot hand you the next chapter while your hands are gripping the last."
Yeah. Create the capacity first.
Yeah, create
Take
the
the chess
capacity
ball.
first. Yeah, which is scary. It's like, where's the next big paycheck going to come from? And the answer is, I don't know. And I'm going to trust it. And I'm going to keep doing the business development. It's not like you just sit back and wait. You do the things, but you trust that your process is going to work and it's going to come through.
Absolutely. And I will say, on the other end of that trust fall, with that consistent action that we talked about, I promised pipeline details when I made that joke. It pays off. It pays off. And there's opportunity out there in the market right now. Yes, there's scary macroeconomics and headlines, of course. All that is true. I do not want to diminish the very real suffering people are experiencing. And it is also true that there is still plenty of opportunity for an independent consultant. We just need a handful of clients and they are out there. So my pipeline right now, I have 96 opportunities in the pipeline total. And my pipeline value is 11x my corporate salary. And that is from less than 10 months in business. Again, I'm doing this for the first time. I'm figuring it out as I go, making plenty of mistakes along the way, some small, some big. And that opportunity is out there.
I'm so glad you shared that, because I do hear a lot like, oh, it's such a tough macro environment and there's just no business to be won and everyone's struggling. And I frankly tell them, agreed, it's a tough macro environment. Not everybody is struggling. There are hundreds of millions of businesses out there. Plenty of those are doing just fine. Plenty are struggling. Plenty are doing just fine. And when you put in the work, you differentiate yourself, you're consistent, you learn all the things, there's plenty of business to go around. So it's not a valid excuse, in my opinion. It's truly not. You get to work with the environment that we have, maybe be patient, but you get to find a way, because there is a way.
There is a way. And if we wait for the conditions to align for us to launch our businesses or grow our businesses, it will never happen. It will never fully align for this to happen. I mean, some would say, I left my corporate job to start my business before my daughter's first birthday. Was that great timing? No, not necessarily. It's an incredibly demanding chapter, but I did it and it worked, and I knew at the time there's never going to be a perfect time. So yes, this will be hard, but look, staying in corporate, there's plenty of risk there too. We know that from this past year. So I don't believe that being out on our own is actually any riskier than it is to work for a company, because if one client leaves me, that would be unfortunate, but it's about 10 to 15% of my income. If my employer were to leave me, that's everything I have.
Such a good point. I'm so glad you made it. We get to wrap up here, Ellie. How can people find you if they want to? I know you do some work with independent consultants now, or if a client's interested in chatting with you, what's the best way to find you?
Yes, come find me on LinkedIn. As you mentioned, I'm now coaching independent consultants as well, specifically on the launch of your business and scaling your growth. Hello, pipeline and revenue. That's my passion. That's what I love to nerd out on. So my client on average is seeing revenue increases by 2 to 3x. One recent client was actually able to 10x her revenue. So that's my sweet spot. If you're looking for coaching support, please come find me. I have 2 spots that open at the end of February. And otherwise, just come say hi. Find me on LinkedIn, Ellie Holbert. I would love to connect.
Amazing. Ellie, thank you so much for coming back, putting all the thoughtfulness into this to make it such a great episode. And I could chat with you forever. It's such a joy. So thank you so much, Ellie.
Well, Bradley, thank you so much. And I just really appreciate you carving out the space for a conversation like this. I know in the entrepreneurial world, when we look at business strategy, and it's not necessarily the case that every person is comfortable having a conversation that touch on such deep, personal, even spiritual topics. But I think we both know that this is often the heart of what will make or break our growth. So I just so appreciate your leadership in that and giving me a chance to share some of these messages.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for calling that forward.